everyone, and welcome along to your latest edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett, and I'm your host this evening, stepping in for Kyle McLean, who is away to a gig. I have absolutely no idea who he's away to see. You can all feel free to speculate in the comments. I did this previously and got really harshly judged, so let's see who you think Kyle's away to see. In the meantime, I'm joined by our Northern Irish contingent on the podcast, it seems. First up, Jock. How you doing, Jock?
Not too bad, Craig. Good to be here.
Great to have you. And we're joined by Ben as well. How you doing, Ben?
Yes, all good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to this.
Excellent. Well, we've got a European group stage match to look forward to as Rangers get set to take on Real Betis at Ibrox in the first of our Europa League group stage matches. Obviously, we were unceremoniously dumped out of the Champions League qualifiers by PSV, so we're hoping for a much better outcome from this one. A lot of people have said that the Europa League is where Rangers can compete. The Europa League is where people expect Rangers to compete. Well, the proof will be in the pudding as we take on Real Betis tomorrow night at Ibrox. Before we get on to that, though, I think it's safe to say that the international break, which thankfully is long gone, but the international break was testing for Rangers fans is probably the best way to describe it. Rangers returned, beat St Johnstone 2-0 away on Saturday lunchtime. Jock, just starting to you, I think the performance against St Johnstone was fine. It's kind of the most recent indicator we have as we go into this Real Betis game. I don't think it was quite the boost in confidence that we're looking for, though, as we start to ramp up. I guess against a completely different quality of opposition as well. What's your confidence levels as we head into the game?
Confidence levels. I think we're obviously up against a really good team. Did a wee bit of research on them. They took 16 from 18 points in the Europa League group last year. So they're no mugs. I say the match against St Johnstone, I think we all hoped to come out and steamroll them 5-6, 7-0. Wasn't the case. What they say, fine, I think's adequate. We got the 3 points. The 3 points was the main crux really of that, and if a performance came with it, happy days. But again, it's another victory. I feel like we're sort of starting from scratch again after the two back-to-back defeats. So to start off with a victory, it is good to come back after the break and let's say the long 2-week stew that we all had. So I'd rather obviously go into this game with a win behind us, which we have done. We're at home, so I think this will be a sort of a big test for some of the new guys that have come in. They have to do.
Yeah, Ben, that's a nice and positive start from Jock there in terms of looking forward to the game. Are you the same as him in terms of I guess the international break provided a good stop, etc., and reset, and now we're pushing forward and we're on the front foot, and definitely that seems to be how Michael Beale wants us to be tomorrow night as well. But in terms of confidence in the team, confidence in performances, is it starting to arrive on the up, I guess?
Well, on the back of a win, we're feeling positive, but it's a win that had to happen against bottom of the league team. Performance was lethargic, I would say, but controlled at the same time. I don't feel like we're ever in danger of not taking the 3 points. Although when it's 1-0 late on, I suppose there always is that slight chance. But the only way is up, as to say. They say you're only as good as your last game, and hopefully we can build upon that. Clean sheet's good after taking a thrashing in Europe and then losing the next game as well. I wouldn't say I'm feeling positive, but I'm more positive than I was at the end of that Old Firm game. So,
yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of where we are. Michael Beale had his pre-match press conference earlier on today. Kyle was in attendance for us earlier on, and you can listen to all everything Michael Beale had to say on the TII Twitter channel. So if you want to watch the full press conference, please head over there. Going to pull out some of the key points and have a bit of a discussion with each of you around them. I think the main one, there's only one place to start, Jock, and that's the confirmation that Raskin is going to be out at least until the next international break with a calf problem. It was first rumoured earlier on this morning when the media went to watch the training session at the Rangers training centre, and then it was the very first question Michael Beale was asked in the press conference. I think for me that's a disappointment to hear, but I'm also aware that Nicolas Raskin hasn't been performing particularly well so far this season in my eyes anyway, so I assume you'd agree it is a disappointment to have him missing, especially for this game.
Yeah, I mean that's why he's at the club, isn't it? That's why we brought him in. It's these kind of games. It's the same with Cantwell. You're missing Cantwell. It's another big miss for us. You touching on there that he's not sort of hit the sort of good form he was had sort of towards the end of last season. We're not really seeing the sort of best of him recently. So this is an opportunity now for like Cifuentes to sort of make that position his own up until the international break and after. I'm really expecting big things from him tomorrow.
Yeah, Ben, Raskin hasn't been in the best form. Just how big a blow do you think it is that he is missing for tomorrow night's game, obviously, but missing for the coming weeks as well, and what's such an important time for the club to get a run of wins?
Yeah, no, I agree with you that he hasn't been at his best. But I would say, I mean, who really has? And him not at his best is better than some of the other ones not at their best, if I'm honest. So I think it's a big blow. I do. I think that he really makes a difference to the team. And I think that, you know, we're trying to, as you say, get a run of wins. And we're losing two in Cantwell and him. We've lost two really influential players. I mean, if you think of the impact that they both made when they came in January, to have them not in our team, you know, going into a European campaign, it is disappointing. But it is an opportunity for other players to step up or to, almost re-grasp another chance that maybe wouldn't have come otherwise. So yes, it is a big blow, but you know that this is why you have a squad. There was a stage that I felt in the summer, like with all these midfielders, and now we're at basically the midfield kind of picks itself now, and it's certainly not the midfield that I would have, if you'd have told me that. Well, I feel like it's probably going to be Lundstram, Jock, and Cifuentes, and you know, if you'd have said to me that two of our midfield three going into our first group stage, whether that was Champions League or whether that was Europa League, was going to be Jock and Lundstram, I would have said, where has this summer rebuild gone? But it's where we are, and you know, they are players that, although have disappointed, they have done it for us, and they have done it for us in Europe. So, you know, fingers crossed they can do that again.
Yeah, Ben, you mentioned Cifuentes there, and Jock mentioned Cifuentes as well. I'll bring in a couple of the comments in terms of what people are saying. Scott Hammond says Cifu has to step up now. No time for prolonged settling in period. Hope Lawrence is up to it after being out for so long. Ali Quinn is not the only one who says that he's got a wee feeling Bailey Rice will replace Raskin. He's definitely good enough, offers more, a better passer of the ball, more forward thinking, and he's backed up by Gary Gray. I think this could be an opportunity with Bailey Rice in the league. Looked composed whenever he's played. However, Betis could be a step too far. I agree with you. We'll come on to Cifuentes in a little bit to talk about him, but Ben, just in terms of Bailey Rice, Michael Beale said as part of his press conference that he felt this might be a chance for some of the academy players to come in the next few weeks and play their part. You'd have to assume that Bailey Rice will be one of the names in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, he actually name checked him and Lovelace, so you know they're at the front of the queue, and Bailey Rice is the most obvious to come in, especially with injuries in the midfield position. Although I would be very much surprised if it's on the European stage. I think domestically makes a lot more sense in terms of protecting the likes of Jock, who's probably going to play a little bit more at this than we would have expected at the minute. So protecting his legs, maybe with a view to the Livingston game or even at the weekend. I don't anticipate him starting a game at this minute in time, but you know he showed that he's more than capable of coming on last 20 if you're in a good position in the game. So it's exciting, you know. At the end of the day, he's committed his future to Rangers for now, and we have to be showing these players that there is a pathway. We have to be showing them that, you know, you've signed a contract, but you're going to feature, and to encourage them for every time we have seen him, be it in friendlies or in the limited competitive games, he stood out. He showed that he looks ready. But I think there's a big difference between playing Europa League against a La Liga team to maybe playing Livingston or the likes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Some more comments coming in around the midfield side of things. Jock, Ali Quinn kind of backs up his comment, says you're either good enough or you're not. Bailey Rice showed against Newcastle how he could handle no sweat. Very own Scott Cameron saying Bailey Rice domestically will come into the squad, probably start next midweek versus Livingston. Ross, on the other hand, says too early for Bailey Rice to play versus Betis. Let's break him in domestically first. Are you surprised by how much discussion there's been about Bailey Rice's potential inclusion in the squad, especially when we've got a player like Cifuentes, who I guess was described by Michael Beale as being a real game changer for Rangers?
Yeah, Cifuentes was named as the player that could take us to the next level by Beale himself. In terms of Bailey Rice, not surprised. Agreeing with the comments there. Definitely think European level probably too early. You don't want to throw him and chuck him in the deep end like that. We've seen that with like King last year whenever he had to come on in the Champions League game against Liverpool. Deep learning curve there. So in terms of Bailey Rice, I think domestically, yeah, by all means, definitely keep him in there. Because like you say, you need to get the pathway going. Not surprised at all. And the cameras, the path,
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm with you guys in terms of Cifuentes, and we'll go on a bit later to some of the comments Michael Beale had about him. The next kind of point I wanted to pick up on from Michael Beale's press conference says we have numbers available in attacking players, and we will be expecting them to show their quality in the team. Jock, sticking with you, how does that comment sit with you looking at this game tomorrow night? He's obviously calling out the attacking players. He's done it beforehand in terms of they now need to contribute more than they have. Injuries have started to play their part again this season already, sadly. Where do you stand in terms of attacking players needing to step up, and who do you think he's talking about and talking to?
Probably the whole lot of them, to be honest, the full front line, because we're not scoring the goals. We create the chances, we're not taking them. So there's big expectation when these guys come in. Lammers, Dessers, Danilo, when all these guys come in, we're expecting them to score goals. We all thought that they would score goals for fun in this league, going by what we've seen in the domestic leagues they came from before, particularly European level as well. I think the sort of real question mark was sort of over Lammers, because he was playing in maybe a team that wasn't really an attacking front. So we thought we'd maybe get the best out of him, but we're still yet to see that. But tomorrow is the ideal stage. You know what I mean? This is Europa League, Ibrox, first game of the group. You're playing the hot favourites to go through. Now's the time to go and put your mark on the team, especially guys like Roof. Roof, we need to see more goals from and can start in consecutive games. So I think he sort of maybe dug out the entire front line, really.
Ben, would you agree with Jock's assessment there in terms of he's dug out the entire front line? Everyone needs to contribute more. No one's scoring enough goals. It's time to step up.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue with that at all. I think Dessers he's particularly pointing at a little bit. I feel like especially with Danilo being out, they were the two out and out number 9 signings as such. And it's time for one to step up when the other one's not there. So I think it's obvious there, but there's no doubt that Lammers hasn't done enough. I was so encouraged by him in pre-season, and since the season started, he's gone missing, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, I think he is talking to everyone. Maybe Roof would be the only exception, given that a couple of chances he's had, I know they haven't counted, obviously, but he still has that instinct of putting the ball in the net, and we know that Kemar Roofe will put the ball in the net more times than not if he's given a decent chance. But the other ones we don't know about, so they're the ones who have to prove themselves. The only way Roofe, to me, has to prove himself is obviously fitness-wise.
Yeah, and hopefully he won't have a goal ruled out by VAR for a third game in a row. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting, and we'll come on to talk about the starting lineup in terms of who we think will play in that front three, if indeed that we will play in a front three. But let's go back to Cifuentes. I guess he is probably the most obvious person to slot in. I think he really struggled in the game against PSV. Actually, in both games against PSV, he looked completely off the pace. He looked completely like he couldn't get back in position in time to help James Tavernier. He was slow on the ball. He was pondering on the ball quite a lot, and I think he just struggled all round in those games. Michael Beale said Cifuentes has had good chances in several games, but it's been unfortunate at times. All the new players have been here long enough now, and they are ready to go. Jock, first of all, are you happy with Cifuentes taking up that role? And secondly, do you like what you've seen from him so far, or do you think we've still to see what he can really offer us?
I definitely think we're still to see what he can offer us. I think he's probably going to be more suited to domestic football. I think Beale was talking about it this morning, that the pace of the European game is a lot quicker, and he's probably just not, like you say, he was struggling to get back. He was out of position. He didn't really seem to contribute much, bar that one cross that Beale again picked out at the press conference this morning, the one cross that he put across the box for Danilo, and obviously he missed it. He's been in the team, then he's been out the team. He's not had a consistent run yet. So I think we need to sort of see that from him, and whether that being maybe 3 or 4 games on the bounce if he can, because he's fit enough. He's just played international games there. I think he's played against Argentina, I think. So he's definitely got the fitness about him. I just think he needs a settled run of games in the team, and maybe Beale needs to stop tinkering with that and give him an opportunity.
And when Cifuentes has played for us, he's tended to either sit in that sort of defensive role that covers either shifts out to the right or shifts out to the left. He's not really been in that central role as such as yet. Where do you think his best position is in that midfield three, and how can we get the most out of him? I guess we saw beforehand that he was scoring worldies of goals for LAFC for the 3 or 4 months that we were tracking him, and we've not seen anything like that from him as yet. How do we get the best out of Cifuentes, do you think?
I honestly don't know a massive amount on him other than the basics watching before he signed it and what I've seen so far. But from what I have seen, it seems to me that by giving him a little bit more flexibility and freedom rather than the rigidity, and the structure. Obviously, when you're in a midfield three, especially if it's Jack and Lundstrom, they should be able to sit that little bit more and allow him to be more of a ball carrier, and to be able to try and, again, if he can shoot, we've seen that, but also to be trying to pick passes. Rather than just being stuck more sitting and also being out to the side. I feel like he can be more influential. If he's given the license to to play a bit more, because it seemed like he was that ball carrier, he was a playmaker, and obviously it's a different level of where he was playing before. But I think we sometimes have a habit of signing players and trying to make them do, we sign them because we've seen them doing certain things, but we try to make them do something completely different. I think John Lundstrom is an example of that throughout his Rangers career. So I feel like allowing him to play his game and show what he can do best is important. I'm confident with him coming in. I agree with you. I think he was very poor against PSV, and I think the pace of the game completely shocked him. But I feel like, to be honest with you, he was a little bit hung out to dry by the manager in terms of, like, we could all see that. And he played the 90 of both games, if I remember correctly. And it should have been changed because it wasn't working. So for me that was poor. But I feel like in some games, like I think it was Livingston, I think he had a good game and he was influential. What I would have liked is I understand why he was dropped for the Old Firm, given that his performance at PSV wasn't good at all. But I feel now he's kind of coming in cold and hasn't had enough exposure to the team to be now coming in as such an important game from the start, and to be replacing somebody as influential as Raskin. So I would have loved him, even if it was 20 minutes the other day, but to have got a bit more time and a bit more play, and especially given the fact that I do understand that he was only back from international duty, but given the fact that, we had talked about there was 2 weeks working for the players that weren't away, given the fact that he was away, I would have liked him to have got a little bit more time playing, but we are where we are.
Jock, Ben mentioned there about John Lundstrom potentially playing out of his normal position, or where he would expect to play in games. He seems to be the common choice that people expect to come in, and it seems to be a Lundstrom, Jack, Cifuentes midfield three to be expected. Normally, I would shiver at the thought of John Lundstrom being named in the start lineup. Is probably a bit harsh, but it wouldn't necessarily be my favourite thing to see. It does seem though that these European games, where we're potentially going to be up against some high quality players, will be under some pressure at some points. We'll potentially need to turn over possession quickly, defend properly, and then hitting the counter attack. Those we saw in the Europa League run a couple of seasons ago that those were the games he thrived in. Are you expecting the same tomorrow night?
I don't know. I don't know, being honest. When you see it written down there, Jack and Lundstrom together, all I'm seeing is safe sideward passing and nothing probing, nothing going forward. I think that season that Lundstrom did sort of thrive in the Europa League, different people around him, and the team was, the sideward passing worked because you were going down the flanks, and that's where our focus was. That we're not seeing this season, so I'm not sure what. I'm hoping, as Ben says, that maybe Cifuentes is the man then to play in the middle of that front two, to let them two sit and let Cifuentes bomb forward with the ball and be the carrier, because Raskin's that forward passing player that can look up and see, a 20-30 yard pass that splits lines and goes over the top and gets somebody off and running. Maybe I'm just being too negative and too harsh on Jack and Lundstrom as a pairing together. I don't know. For me, I'm not a fan. I hope Lawrence is in that midfield somewhere.
Yeah, in my head I've got Tom Lawrence in as part of the front three, but we can discuss that a bit shortly, because the next point I wanted to move on to from Michael Beale's press conference, he said it's important that we play with energy and quality. Betis are a good side, so it will be a good challenge. I would go as far to say, Ben, that energy and quality are two things we've been severely lacking since the start of this season. Michael, there are two words Michael Beale has mentioned numerous times in press conferences now, in terms of that's what he's looking for. Why don't you think we are? If he's mentioning it that often, he must be speaking to the players about it. He must be talking to the players about this is what he wants, and we want to see that from the get-go. Why do you not think we've seen that so far? And do you really expect it to change tomorrow night against Betis?
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to answer as to why. I mean, I feel with Michael Beale that talk is cheap, if I'm honest. We heard about this handbrake off and taking the game, and where is it? Where's it been? So you would like to think, if he's saying this continually, that it is what he's saying to the players and what he's expecting. But then there's, if that is the case, the questions are even greater to be asked, because then the players are not playing for the manager, or not doing what the manager wants. If that is the case, and if it isn't the case, then why is he saying it, in public, and then send a team out that doesn't remotely look like that? I would like to hope. Again, I watched the press conference today. I would like to hope that we're able to take a game to them, and I think that's us at our best. I think if we are going to set off and we're going to be lethargic, we're going to be slow, I think a team like Betis has enough quality to pick you off. and I think we'll struggle. So I think, if you look at that, I don't like to always harp back to it, but the Europa League run, the reason we got to Seville was fast starts at Ibrox, was early goals, was a high tempo. Obviously, the atmosphere played a big part in it, but teams couldn't live with. But I'll be honest and say we beat better teams than us that we shouldn't have beaten. I don't think anyone disagree really, and it was the fact that they couldn't deal with our pace, with our approach, with our tempo. So it is the way to go. It's proven, but I'm skeptical as to whether we will see it, because I've heard it all before. We all have.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments. Ali Quinn says it's so important we get an early goal tomorrow night. They could collapse under the lights. Given that they've just played in New Camp, I'm not sure just the lights will intimidate them. Darren Knock says Michael Beale's soundbites can be annoying because he contradicts himself. I see Ben nodding there, Jock. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about the fact that the words sort of energy and quality are repeatedly mentioned, but then we don't see them replicated on the pitch as such? And is that something that you expect to see tomorrow night? It's obviously what we all want to see, but is it something you expect to see?
Yeah, I don't expect. Under Beale, we the first sort of maybe 15, 20 minutes, we start off well, and then if we don't score, or if things don't seem to be going our way, we sort of sit back, and in that half an hour to 40-minute period, then we're mulling over things, and we're not really trying anything different. We're doing the same thing over and over again. It's rinse and repeat, and it's been like that since he came in the door. I haven't seen anything change really in that regard. And then it's usually a second half rocket gets the team going. This season, yes, we've started scoring goals in the first half, which has helped, particularly domestically. But you're talking those buzzwords, energy. The other one he kept harping on about was chaos. We want to create chaos. The only players that we had that were creating chaos were Kent and Sakala, and we've let them go. And we're not, the players we have in now aren't creating chaos. They aren't creating havoc. It's lethargic. I think we're too slow. We're too slow in the transition, and that we're seeing that over and over again. A team like Betis, if you don't hit them early about a couple of goals, or even put them under pressure, especially now that they've got a long injury list, and the goalkeeper's not going to be up to much from what we hear. I know it's Keylor Navas.
It's Claudio Bravo.
Right. He's not played much, so that's who we should be targeting. We should be going after him from the get-go. But whether we do that's a totally different story.
Yeah, Ben, as Jock said there, it seems to have been a bit of a theme pretty much this season, that we go fast for the first 5-10 minutes, push, and then we just seem to drop off for effectively the rest of the first half, if not the largest portion of it. Why do you think that is? Is that a risky tactic when you go into a European game against a quality side? Real Betis qualified through their weak position in La Liga last year, and they're absolutely no mugs. I don't think there are any mugs in the Europa League at this stage, given when you look through the names that are in there. You've got the likes of Ajax and Liverpool, who we faced in the Champions League group stage last year, who are now joining us in the Europa League group stage. Is that a good enough tactic? We obviously, as well, it was mentioned the fact that when we did make it to Seville in the Europa League final, we blew teams away in those first 5-10 minutes. So when it works, but when it doesn't work, it's a real concern, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, prime example being how we started that Old Firm. I mean, I don't want to bring up that again all the time, but how we started that with the offside goal. They couldn't live with us at the start, and I was like, this is it. This is how we should be playing. This is how we should go. But it disappeared, and then as that disappears, the opposition grew in confidence, and then we saw what happened. So we need to be trying to take it. There's no doubt there are no mugs. Is absolutely right. I mean, they were undefeated, winning their group last year. Roma were second, who ended up reaching the final. They've reached the last 16 for the last 2 years as well. Isco's a cracking player. You know, they've some really good players. So the more that you're going to let them settle, it makes me think of the time. Actually, the Seville year when Leon came, and we sat off them and we let them settle, and they passed us off the park, and they deservedly beat us at Ibrox. And you know, that was due to the fact that we allowed them, you know, to run the game, to use their passing, and you know, they had technically better players, and I feel like probably squad for squad. I mean, a La Liga team is more than likely going to be a better squad than ours. So we need to be trying to, you know, go at them and from the start. But if it doesn't, obviously you can't go gung ho, because you're playing against a good team. You can't go totally at it, and then you're going to end up conceding. So there has to be a balance, obviously. But I mean, at the same time, I think we are at our best, and we are the most dangerous when we're taking the game to teams.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with any of what you said there, Ben. Jock, looking at the group as a whole, looking at the Europa League as a competition, I mentioned at the start of the podcast that a lot of people felt that the Europa League is Rangers level, and it's a level that we can compete in. It's a competition that's gotten stronger and stronger, especially over the last few years. We've been drawn in a group with Real Betis, Sparta Prague and Aris Limassol. What are your expectations? What are your hopes as we head into this campaign? Is it you expecting us to top the group? Are you expecting it to be us and Betis that go through? Is it going to be trickier than that? Where do you stand?
I think expectation is second. I think that's, you know, shouldn't be questioned. That's where we should be, you know, aiming for. Hope is obviously we top the group. If you start the first game and you beat the favourites at your home, and then we can try and, you know, we like to think we'll take points away from home as well, at least in 2 of the games. We should be qualifying and going through the next round, no problem from here. A lot of these players in this squad still have that experience and the run from Seville, and you know, they've been in that sort of winning group. They know the competition quite well. Players who've brought in have played in this competition and the one below, the Conference League as well, and some have Champions League experience. So my worry is the scar tissue still remaining for last year. I know it's been talked about before on the podcast, but I think we need to sort of just use this campaign in Europa League to sort of exercise that and get rid of it, and let these guys know this is a different team from the team that was there last year at a higher level. So, you know, don't think about that and go out and put your own mark on your European campaign this season. We played some really good football in Europa League over the last couple of years, and it sort of helps us in the domestic front. So if we can use it tomorrow as a sort of kickstart and say, look, if we can do this against European teams, we can sure as hell do it against the domestic teams. So I'm saying hope that we come out on top and we get the favourable draw in the next round, but my expectation is second.
Yeah, Ben, we're going into this as the top seeds. I think it's probably fair to say that the expectation has to be that we win the group. There's the added benefits you get in the next stages. If you do top the group, you're not faced with a team dropping down from the Champions League as your kind of first opponent there. It's going to be tricky. I won't deny that, but my expectation is that we should be winning this group. Do you agree with Jock that second is okay, or is it aim for the top as always?
I mean, aim for the top as always is right, but my thinking is probably closer to Jock's. That I expect us to be second in this group, just given the fact that they're a good side, but also, you know, we're not playing well at the minute. We haven't had a good start to the season, so it's difficult to see us just, you know, off and running. It could happen, and hopefully it does, but I feel that second is realistic. Although I think tomorrow night is very, very big on that, because I think if we did get a win and we get off to the win against what is our second toughest game of the group, if it sets you off really, really well. Obviously, we'd like to be playing maybe Limassol first and get some points on the board. But if we manage to get 3 points, whatever way it comes, then it sets you up really, really well. And then you're basically, whereas if you lose tomorrow night, you're going to Betis thinking, right, we have to beat them away to have a chance. Whereas if you get the win there, you'd happily take a point away. I think we would anyway. And it's less pressure on the Prague games. So I feel it's not out of our capabilities to win the group. But I think obviously we were first seeds, but I think that's sort of false. I think a La Liga team to me should. I think if I was Betis, I'd be going in there thinking we should be winning this group.
Yeah, they are a La Liga team, and that naturally comes with the expectation. They were beaten 5-0 by Barcelona. I imagine we'd be on the end of a similar result, if not worse, against Barcelona, if we are honest with ourselves. Just to pile on the positivity, I guess, we've got Hugo Bear here saying, I think we'll finish third. And we've got Jim Gibson saying, I think I'll be lucky to get third. This team don't have what it takes, plus these new signings are not good enough to play for Rangers. Jock, that seems a bit harsh on Jim's comment there, but you can see where he's coming from in terms of not having the confidence in the new signings just yet. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think it is harsh, but as us Rangers fans, just the way we are, our expectations is obviously very high, and some of these guys haven't hit those expectations, but then the team as a whole hasn't hit our expectations really, so I can understand where Jim's coming from. Am I right in saying that if you finish third in this, you drop down into the Conference League?
The Conference League, yeah.
So third, I wouldn't exactly be a disaster now, would it? Because you still have European football, and I know it's still a European run we could go on and maybe get a wee day out.
No, I think the Conference League has its place, but it definitely should not be a target. If you're in the Champions League and trying to get third place, then absolutely fine. You try to get into the Europa League, but when you're in the Europa League, you can't think of anything else apart from going through. In my opinion, it might just be me that thinks that, but we need to be aiming higher than the Conference League's a good backup competition, I guess, for us, but it shouldn't be where we're aiming. Ben, how important is success in this group? We saw the other side of the coin last season, where heavy defeats in the Champions League week after week took its toll on the squad, took its toll on the mentality of the team. They really struggled to get back from that and recover from the number of defeats it was, and in some cases the manner of the defeat as well. How important is being in a competition, challenging in those games, getting some points on the board, doing well? How important can that be for Rangers this season?
I think it's absolutely massively important. I think for Rangers and for the fans to believe in this new team as such, and for Michael Beale, confidence is low, and we need to really find a winning mentality again from this team, and that's only going to come from winning games. And as you've said, last year, there's no doubt that conceding 6, conceding 7, is going to have a knock-on effect on confidence. So yeah, we need to. And also last year, all right, you don't like getting hammered, but you say, right, okay, this isn't our level. We're not, but now we're supposed to be at what is our level. So we need to be competitive at our level and successful at our level. I understand what Jock's saying there about third, but I think third in this particular group. I think if there are some groups, if we'd ended up getting Ajax and Brighton or something like that in the group, I could understand third being not acceptable, but I would understand it. But the two teams other than Betis are two teams that we should be beating. And so I think third is real failure in this group. So I think it's important to the mentality. I think it's important to the group, and it's important for the fans to be able to see something from this team. So yeah, I think it's absolutely crucial.
Yeah, Jock, before I ask you your thoughts on that one, Chris Redhand, who is a subscriber to the TII YouTube channel, make sure that you also subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Please like the video as well. He asked if second place means an extra game next round as well. It does. I think if I'm right in saying you take on a Champions League team that's finished third in the Champions League group, that's how we played Dortmund in the Seville run, was because they finished third and we finished second behind Lyon, and that's how we faced that task that we all thought for several months was going to be the end of that run, and how wrong we were. Jock, going back to this Europa League run and going back to how much confidence can build through a run or a couple of runs on that front, and a couple of positive results. How important do you think that is for us, especially given the way we started the season?
Like Ben says, it's massive. You need to use these games. You need to use these games to pick off teams, get some scalps. If you can beat Betis at Ibrox, that's a massive scalp. Like you say, any team that's coming from La Liga to Scotland is going to be expecting to come away with a good result. So if we can lay down a marker now and use that to build going forward, and to especially taking it into the cup game coming up soon as well, get into that next round, getting that semi-final. That's what you want. You want these big games build confidence, and if the players put in good performances, they're going to take that into the domestic games. So it's huge. We can't underestimate it. That European run that we had is fantastic. And I say the fans need something to get behind as well. And if they can start seeing performances at a big stage, particularly European level, builds confidence around the whole club.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that one. Right, let's place a bit of focus on our opponents. Real Betis, putting your Spanish football knowledge to the test. Head coach is Manuel Pellegrini. We're all aware of him and his exploits at some of the top clubs around Europe, likes of Man City, likes of Real Madrid, likes of Villarreal. In terms of Real Betis, in the league so far, 5 games played, 7 points, scored 5 goals, conceded 10. 5 of those were against Barcelona in the new camp. So I guess that kind of skews the figures a little bit on that one. We've never faced Real Betis in European competition, which is good, because I hate playing the same teams over and over again in European competition. Feels like we've played Lyon so many times, feels like we've played Stuttgart so many times. It's good to always play against new teams. A not so positive stat, Rangers are winless in the last 15 games against Spanish teams, drawn 7 and lost 8. The last time we beat a Spanish team was before I was even born. We beat Osasuna 1-0 in September 1985 in the UEFA Cup. Betis, I think it's safe to say, is similar to us. They've been hit by injuries. But it looks as though, as Jock mentioned earlier, Claudio Bravo, who is their second choice goalkeeper, some of you might remember him from Barcelona. He was down at Manchester City as well for a bit. He's 40 years old now. He got injured at the weekend in the new camp, but they think he's going to recover in time to start. So it will be him rather than their third choice goalkeeper that we're taking on. Others that they're expected to come back from injury are Mexico's Andres Guadardo, Portugal's William Carvalho, and Spanish winger Aitor Ruibal. So they're all expected to be fit as well. So it seems like they're getting some of their main players back. Ben, how do you assess Rangers' chances against Real Betis? I don't think we can walk past the fact that Real Betis have been an improving side for a number of seasons now, and are one of the better sides, along with Real Sociedad, challenging the big names in that league.
Yeah, no, they're more than a decent side. They've got some very good technical footballers. Pellegrini's a good and an experienced manager. Obviously, I follow West Ham as well in English football, so I thought he was finished when he left there, but he went to Betis, and as I said earlier, he's got them to the last 16 the last 2 years. Went out to Manchester United last year, and then was unbeaten in a group with Roma, which again is very, very good. So yeah, I think they're difficult. I think they're going to be a difficult side. I mean, any side that's going to finish sixth in La Liga is going to be a decent team. You've named some good players there. Even William Carvalho is a very good player, very tidy on the ball. So I think if it all depends on our approach. It really, going back to what was said earlier, I think if we let them come and dictate the play, then they'll be very happy and they'll settle. Whereas if we are in their faces and we try and take the game to them, then it stands us in a much better position. I feel we can beat them. I certainly do. I don't feel that there's no hope getting in there. I think it'll be difficult. But I feel, depending on our approach and taking, the most important thing is taking chances, because it's all right playing St Johnstone and creating a certain amount of chances and missing some of them because you will most likely create more. But against good teams like that, they'll punish you. They'll and if you don't take your chances, you might not get another one, or they may have taken two by the time you do. So yeah, I think our approach is key in it, but I feel like we have a chance, especially at home.
Yeah, Jock, one of the I could agree with Ben there, and one of the key themes of Michael Beale's press conference was that we're going to be on the front foot and we're going to take control of the game, as I think you would expect at the Europa League level for Rangers to do. Is that risky for us? I realise I've just turned a really positive comment from Ben there into a potential negative, but is that risky for us to open up and try and to try and play our football, given especially how much pace that Real Betis have within their team, and Ben's named some of the quality there, William Carvalho in particular in midfield. I don't think that was a small transfer fee that they got him for. Is that dangerous, or should we be expecting, yes, we can go toe to toe with this team, we should be confident we're going to take control of this game and win it?
I think at Ibrox we should be confident of going toe to toe with teams. It's the home games. It's expected no matter where you are. You'd mentioned there that in the league there they've scored 5 and conceded 10, and they've conceded 5 in the last game against Barcelona. But I went and checked and seen how they did last season in the league, and if I got this right, they scored 46, but they conceded 41. So they're not a big scoring team, but they don't concede many goals either. So the games are very, very tight. So it shows you they're probably good defensively and they're probably good at controlling games. So we might have a bit of a battle on our hands to get the ball tomorrow, because they'd be happy enough to come with us and just sit and spray the ball about and keep hold of the ball, and it'd be on us to open up, to go after them, to chase after them, and then that's when they could pick you off. So going toe to toe, I think we might have to, and go man for man and see how it goes. But your guy Chris there says in the chat, they do have a hell of a midfield, and some of the talent and some of the technical ability in that midfield really pick through balls and pick passes. I think we will have to be on it tomorrow.
Yeah, we absolutely will, and I don't think there is any doubt that we'll need to be playing at our best, given how we've started this season. One, to get the fans on side. Getting the fans on side can be a major factor. Tomorrow night, I think there's a lot of scepticism amongst fans at the moment as to whether this team can actually deliver, and tomorrow night is a perfect opportunity for them to show that they can on one of the bigger stages and against one of the better teams that we'll face this season. We've touched heavily on the midfield so far, Ben. Interested in how you think we'll set up tomorrow night, especially given the injuries that we're facing, and what your starting lineup will be.
Yeah, so obviously goalkeeper picks himself with Butland. I've Tav, Goulson, and then it was tough, I must admit, between Suter and Davies, because I thought Davies had a good game at the weekend, but I've gone for Suter. I just prefer him. Borna is basically the only left back we'll have in the European squad, so he's there. And then I've gone Jack, Lundstrom, and Cifuentes. I've gone Matondo on the left, Kemar Roof on the right, and then I've gone Sema up front. The only reason I haven't put Lawrence in there is I'm just concerned about him playing again, starting again in such short space of time, given how long he was out. If he's comfortable and he's able to play, I would definitely have him in there. I wouldn't be against having him in the midfield, but I think he is obviously better in the front three. But given the fact that we have injuries and stuff in the midfield, I could see him doing a job in there too.
Yeah, you're going for pace out wide there. Do you think that's going to be a key factor?
Yeah, I do. I think that as I said, I'm basing it on the Europa League previously, and I think pace, even if it was Ryan Kent running that, teams committing them, making, I think he won a few penalties, penalty to Rangers, shock, but I feel that Matondo is an improving player, and his pace and his unpredictability can be his downfall at times, but it can also be an asset to us. And defenders will be worried about it. They will have seen him. They'll have looked at him against PSV. They'll have looked at him the other day when he went through. And he's confident at this minute in time. Even from hearing him in the press conference today, he does sound confident. And I feel that to be able to, as Jock said, they will have a lot of the ball. They will try and pass you to death. So I feel like us having that counter, having that pace, and being able to for him to be able to run in behind and give them something to think about, I think will be very important.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. Jock, looking for your starting 11, do you agree in terms of the importance of pace in there? Do you agree that Tom Lawrence maybe won't feature from the start, given he played so much of the game at the weekend? Can you give us your thoughts on that starting lineup?
So it's near identical to Ben's, but I'm putting Davies in instead of Suter, just because I think Suter in the European games, I don't know, I just think they might target him about set pieces. So I think I'll stick with Davies, and then I'm starting Lawrence. I'd have Lawrence. I go Lawrence, Lundstrom, Cifuentes in the midfield. Stick with the same front three. Pace, I think pace. Their fullbacks, Bellerin. What is it, Bellerin? Boys play for Arsenal.
He's played for Arsenal. Yeah,
he's not the youngest anymore. So he's the sort of player we can target down the sides. So pace is key. And Lawrence was brilliant in the games against PSV when they did feature in Europe last year. He scored that, the dodgy free kick, the keeper spilled it, but he also hit the bar away. I think before we scored as well, didn't he, from outside the box? So he has that. I think that's something we might need to try and use tomorrow. Ibrox is shots from outside the area, and he has that ability. He's done it before. We've seen it only in short drives until he got injured last season. I think he'd be right up for this. I'm putting Lawrence in. I want him in that midfield because he made a good bit of difference in there when he changed position at the weekend. He set up Matondo with a goal. So if they two can keep that going on that side, I think they can do some damage.
Yeah, I can't agree with that. I don't think in terms of Lawrence being in the midfield, I'm not a huge fan of that for a game like we're expecting tomorrow, but I'm also aware that a midfield of Lundstrom, Jack and Cifuentes might be far too defensive to get us forward and to play the kind of creative, incisive passes that we want to see from that. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting one on that front. Let's end on a positive note with some score predictions. Jock, I'll come to you first for that one.
I'm gonna say 3-1 Rangers.
3 after saying that Betis don't score or concede many goals, you're going for 3-1.
Yeah, I think we'll get a good VAR penalty and we'll get a proper penalty. So we'll get 2 dodgy penalties and then Lawrence 25 yards underside the bar. And
a win's a win. I'll take it any way it comes. Ben, what about yourself?
I'm going to say we'll win 2-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I think it'll be a tight game. I think if we go for 2-1 as well, but let's go for 1-0 to Rangers. It'll be a tight game, but we'll get the 3 points we need and get ourselves off to a good start. I think we'll round it off there. Thank you very much to you both for joining us. Thank you very much to everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the TII YouTube channel and drop a like on the video as well. It really does help us in terms of what we've got coming up. The guys will be live from the gantry. I believe it's Ross and Tommy will be live from the gantry tomorrow night following the conclusion of the game to give their immediate post-match reaction thoughts. We'll then be on to the weekend and we'll be live from the gantry again. I think it'll be me and Kyle this time as Rangers take on Motherwell on Sunday afternoon. interesting which game is more important this week. I'll leave that up to yourselves to judge. But yes, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Keep your eye on the TII YouTube channel for the latest content. And until next time, goodbye.